Welcome to episode 2 of the TarPack podcast. Today is a great one. We have our week 1 college football previews. UConn versus NC State. The Wolfpack heading to UConn's home stadium to play in what should be a fairly decent matchup because UConn is a little bit on the rise. I do expect a win there, obviously. But anyways, and also, the big one, College Game Day, is heading to Charlotte, North Carolina for North Carolina and Drake May versus South Carolina and Spencer Rattler, which will definitely be the majority of this talking point in today's episode, considering the matchups, obviously. So stick around for that, but we will be starting with UConn versus NC State, which also should be an exciting enough matchup. So I will hand it over to Cam187 for us to get this started. How we're going to be doing it is we're going to go position group by position group and say who's better, which team is better at that spot, all the way down to the coaching staff, and then give our final score predictions at the end. So let's get this thing started.
And now it's time for the NC State Week 1 preview against UConn. Starting with the quarterbacks, we got Brendan Armstrong and Joe Fagino. Obviously, Joe Fagino, he's a transfer from Maine. Maine, just one of those like D2 schools that just doesn't play against as many talented players. And Brendan Armstrong, obviously played for Virginia. 2021 had a great year. 2022 had a pretty down year. But as he's coming to another team that has a good offensive line, the whole team's not terrible like Virginia last year. I really feel like he's going to show out in this game against a UConn team which is on the rise, made it to a bowl game last year somehow. But I still definitely think Brendan Armstrong's going to have a way better game than Joe Fagino. And now it's time for the running backs. And NC State and the Huskies. The Huskies don't have a terrible running back core, but obviously Jordan Houston and Michael Allen are just overall better and way more experienced and play against more hardcore teams. Now to the wide receivers. With Kayon was saying Terrell Timmons and Porter Rooks versus the Husky wide receivers and just the quarterback for the Husky. Obviously, I'm going to give this to NC State. Just way more talented wide receiver core than the Huskies. And now to the tight ends with Trent Penix and Juice Vereen and others. Just a very talented tight end core. And with the Huskies tight end, obviously I'm giving it to State with the QB and all the situations they have. And now going to the offensive line. Clear as day for my mind. State has had an average to good offensive line for multiple years now. The Huskies have really not had that great of offensive line. Not terrible, but they've been average. I mean, they've been improving over the years in really every position, but
pretty good compared to, most FCS, type programs like the Huskies are.
Yes, but State is going to win the battle for the offensive line. And now to the defensive line. Obviously, just going to give it to State. They've been average to good every single year. Just so talented.
Devin Van, just absolutely insane. And the Huskies just really weren't that good at defensive line, really. They lost that player that went to the Ravens. He was their one really good defensive lineman.
Yeah, and the rest of them really weren't that good. So it's very unfortunate to lose him. But, yeah, NC State's going to win the defensive line battle. And now to the linebackers with Peyton Wilson and just multiple other talented linebackers. Obviously, I'm going to give this to NC State as the Huskies' defense is good against the teams they play most of the time, but against more talented FBS school with more talented players, I'm obviously going to give it to NC State. And now to the secondaries, my favorite part of this whole team, the most talented, stacked part of this whole team, with like Aiden White, Shaquem Battles, and others. I mean, these guys, Aiden White and Shaquem Battles, they're both going to be like NFL superstars, I feel like, in someday. They're going to be very talented in the NFL probably. And honestly, this might be a spoiler in my mind, but honestly, I feel like Shaquem Battle is better than Aiden White. I know some people might think I'm crazy for that, but I mean, really, from looking at last year and everything, Shaquem Battle just looks better. But obviously, by talking about what we're just talking about now, obviously, NC State is going to be better than the Huskies.
That's a hot take there. Shaquem Battle over Aiden White. That is a very hot take. But I don't mind that. Do you think it's possible for NC State to hold UConn scoreless in this game, possibly? I would probably say it's unlikely, but we'll get to our predictions here in a minute. But you think that's possible with this defense?
I say it's possible, but how I feel like we're going to take the lead early. We don't want our players to get injured. I feel like we're going to give some of the players that don't get much playing time more minutes.
Okay.
And now to the coaching. Obviously, NC State, we got Dave Doran. And for UConn, we got Jim Mora. As Jim Mora is not that bad of a coach. He got hired in 2021. He is starting to rise up the program. I mean, they brought them to a bowl game last year. But obviously, I'm going to give it to Dave Doran. Just as of now, he does have it easier on state where he just gets more talented players than UConn.
I would say maybe like head coaching is pretty close. Maybe even Jim Moore is better. But the coordinators is where it definitely adds up for the Pack here.
Yeah, I mean, it says coaching overall. You know me and our defensive coordinator. I think he's really one of the best defensive coordinator in all of college football.
Yeah, I do agree with that. NC State's defensive coordinator is actually very good.
Yes, Tony Gibson, absolutely insane.
All right, so let's get into the predictions here. Before I go to the next slide where I show the predictions, give a little of your overall thoughts before you tell us what your final prediction score is.
Yes, and for my last thoughts in this, I just said for my prediction, I got for my Cam 187 prediction, I got NC State 44 and UConn 14. Obviously, I'm going to say that UConn's going to score at least some of those points in most likely the second half when we're probably going to take out some of our better defensive players. Because if we're up by like 30 at halftime, I don't want to see Brendan Armstrong out there playing because I don't want them to get injured. It's just no waste on getting them hurt. And yeah, 44-14.
Okay, so I actually agreed with the UConn 14. We didn't discuss this or anything beforehand, but I do think NC State's not going to score probably quite up to 44. I think this offense will be okay, but I think they will probably have some stuff to sort out going into the start of next year. So my final score prediction is NC State 34 and UConn 14. Hoping to see our guy Terrell Timmons get a couple of touchdowns. That would be cool.
Very cool.
But yeah, I think a 20-point win here for NC State wouldn't be too bad on a UConn program that is at least somewhat on the rise here. So any last thoughts on this game that's coming up Thursday? How excited are you for this game? The start of the 2023 college football season for you.
Obviously, it's not the most hype game ever, but just being able to have more college football and watching NC State in college football again, I'm just very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well, even though I'm not a NC State fan. So let's move on here. We will now be going to the big one, College Game Day in Charlotte. All right, College Game Day in Charlotte, UNC and South Carolina. I am extraordinarily excited for this. We will be in Charlotte for this game. We'll be at College Game Day. Maybe you'll see some of our signs in the crowd. Maybe that'll be pretty cool if you see that. So yeah, how excited are you for going to College Game Day?
I'm very excited for going to any college football game, but going to my first ever College Game Day, just the environment and everything, very exciting.
Yeah, both of our first college game days. That should be very exciting. All right, getting it started off here, we have the quarterback battle between Spencer Rattler and Drake May. Obviously, I'm going to go Drake May here. He's definitely more consistent than Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler had a very good ending to the season last year, but he didn't have a very good start. So who knows where he's going to pick up this year from? But Drake May, I think, is debatably the best quarterback in the country. I think he's better than Caleb Williams. You can say I'm biased for saying that or whatever, but I think what we saw against San Jose State, I just think Drake is better. So I am going to end up going with Drake May here, winning the quarterback battle for UNC.
Yeah, and for his last 2 games against Tennessee and Clemson and how talented he was, if he would have done that for the whole season, I would have had him honestly beating out Caleb Williams for Heisman, but obviously he did that for only those 2 games. And he did
more games than that, but maybe
pretty not that good in the other game.
Just okay.
And Drake May, I definitely pick him as the better quarterback and more talented because he's just overall way more consistent.
Drake May for Heisman, boys. All right, moving on to the running back room. This one's a little tough. They do have Ja'Carrion Joyner moving to running back for South Carolina, who is a former quarterback. He's really just a playmaker. Offensive threat, really. So I don't know how many carries he's going to get and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting. But Carolina really has a five-headed monster, to be quite honest. I think they're all 5 guys that are very talented and can be good. Obviously, not many of them have shown much yet, but I do give them the edge here because of the numbers advantage and the upside here. You talk about George Pettaway and O'Marion Hampton are 2 very talented sophomores now. British Brooks can be a very hard player to tackle when he gets it going as long as he's healthy. Caleb Hood, same thing. If he's healthy, he's a very good player. And Elijah Green is just Mr. Reliable. So we'll see who gets the advantage here, but I do think Carolina just nudges South Carolina in this department. Moving on to wide receiver. This one to me, honestly, isn't that close, especially if Tez Walker is eligible to play. Carolina just had the best, one of, if not the best, passing games in all of college football the past couple of years. Drake May's going to be passing to very talented guys. If Tez Walker is able to play, I think he's going to have an additional chip on his shoulder going into this game with how the NCAA has been doing him for the past couple of weeks and months. So he might let out a lot of frustration on South Carolina in that game. Then you obviously got Nate McCullum and some other very talented guys, J.J. Jones, and so on. And for South Carolina, you got Juice Wells and a couple of other guys, but just not quite to the caliber of UNC, especially when you consider that Drake May is throwing them the football.
And obviously, when you lost Josh Downs, one of your most talented receivers ever, to getting drafted in the 2nd round to the Colts, and then getting Ted Walker right after that, as a Carolina fan, you would just have to be so happy.
Oh, it's definitely exciting as long as the NCAA lets him play. What is the NCAA doing? I could go on like a 45-minute tangent, to be honest, about that, but that is so ridiculous how they might not let this man play. So, free Tez.
#free Tez.
All right, tight end. This one to me is like the most blowout of any position group battle that this game has to offer. You talk about the 3-headed monster that Carolina has. It's maybe the best in the country. So no offense to South Carolina's guys, I'm sure they'll be good, but they did lose Austin Stogner, and they're bringing in some transfers to play. So I definitely going to go with Carolina. That 3-headed monster of Bryson Nesbitt, Kamari Morales, and John Copenhaver is just nearly unmatched when it comes to the college game. Moving on here to the offensive line, this has been an area of concern for Carolina for quite some time. South Carolina hasn't honestly been great either, especially when it comes to being able to run block and help them run the football. But I am going to give the ever so slight edge to South Carolina here, just because Carolina's offensive line has been so poor for the past couple of years. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. being a State fan and just watching Carolina games and just witnessing this offensive line, and not really watching that many South Carolina games, but I don't know how it can get really worse than just Carolina's offensive line. So, yeah, I agree with that.
I am hoping. Matt Brown has said that tackle is still a pretty concerning position group for Carolina. They act like center and guard is fine, which I'm not sure how true that is, but they act like left tackle is the real main problem with the offensive line, but we'll see how things go. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball. So, overall offense, I am going to say Carolina, UNC, I should say, just to clarify, does have the better offense there. Defensive line, again, this is an area where Carolina has really underperformed, but there is a ton of talent here. I would say there's more talent here than there is on South Carolina's sideline, although South Carolina has had that more production. So I'll go South Carolina, even though the run game has really been a problem for South Carolina. They've had a tough time stopping the run. So, but they're going up against Carolina's offensive line, so maybe they'll be able to find something. But I am going to give a slight edge to South Carolina's defensive line, although I think North Carolina's defensive line does have the higher upside in this regard.
Yeah, I really think that South Carolina defensive line might get overhyped in this game just because they're playing against this North Carolina offensive line, which would just make it honestly easier for every person on the South Carolina defensive line to get to the quarterback and stop the run. But Carolina's defensive line is not bad either, not like the offensive line. So, yeah, give South Carolina the slight edge.
I'd be very excited if Travis Shaw came in and got like a sack or something. That'd be exciting.
Very exciting if that happened.
Moving on to the linebacker, I think this is a fairly clear win for North Carolina here. Cedric Gray, Power Eccles, one of, if not the best duos in the ACC. Cedric Gray is an all-American talent. I absolutely love to watch him play. Same thing with the other guys. South Carolina's got some good players, but I don't believe on the same level as North Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina might have a deeper core, but they definitely don't got a better duo then.
That's a good point. The depth might be on South Carolina's side, but as long as Ced Gray and Power Eccles stay healthy, I think that'll be a win for Carolina in that regard.
Yeah.
Moving on to the secondary, another one of those problem points for North Carolina. But in this matchup, I do like what some of the new guys bring in. Obviously, talk about the transfer in Elijah Huzzy and sophomore Marcus Allen and redshirt freshman Tayan Holloway, as well as an experienced guy who's kind of the fourth guy in that room right now in Armani Chapman. So I think Carolina has potential to be the better secondary in this one. But based on what we've seen the past couple of years, I am going to go South Carolina. Although I think this really is close because South Carolina lost their two best corners as well. Carolina lost their corners in like a good way, if that makes sense, losing Tony Grimes and Storm Duck. But South Carolina actually lost some good players in their secondary. So we'll see. I do give the ever so slight advantage to South Carolina just because, they've played SEC passing games all the time, so I'll give them a slight edge, but Carolina definitely could be better in this category.
Yeah, and for North Carolina, this is going to be kind of like a new one because without seeing Tony Grimes and Storm Duck on the field, those two are horrible players for them. No meanness as a State fan, but, they really just never proved anything and did anything right. I mean, Tony Grimes did have a good start at Carolina, but that's basically it. And, I mean, Storm Duck, he had some injuries and stuff, but they're really just two players that really aren't it.
All right, moving on to the coaching here. Interesting coaching on both sides. Actually, a lot of really talented coaches, to be quite honest. Mac Brown entering his fifth year as the North Carolina head coach. Excited about what is to come for Mac. He's done a really good job at changing this program. And on the other side, Shane Beamer for South Carolina has done a really good job as well. But I think when you get into the depths of it, even coordinators, Gene Chizik and Chip Lindsey. But I think going down as far as the position coaches, I think Carolina is going to end up having the advantage in this regard because I think, Lonnie Galloway, Tommy Thigpen, those guys are as good at their job as anyone in the country. And then you got Ted Monachino coming in as an analyst, as well as Clyde Christensen, who was coaching Tom Brady just like a year ago in coaching in the quarterback room for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and now he's coaching Drake May. So that is an absolute, great hiring by Mac Brown of the Tar Heels. So I am going to give Carolina, the UNC, I should say, the coaching advantage here in this regard. I just love how this coaching staff is shaped up, especially, I like Dre Bly, but he just wasn't developing the corners like he should have.
And now the South Carolina coaching staff is talented, but the Carolina coaching staff is just honestly stacked.
It truly is stacked. There are guys. I mean, our tight ends coach was a head coach in the NFL. That's just kind of crazy.
And he's not even the head coach. He's just a tight end coach.
He's a tight end coach, and he was a head coach in the NFL.
That just shows how stacked Carolina's coaching staff is.
It really is. All right, getting into the final part of this podcast, episode 2, we had the prediction portion. So, obviously, I had Carolina winning 6 of 9 of these positional battle things, which obviously isn't the part of it. I did give South Carolina the trenches advantage, which is a fairly big, advantage there. But I don't think it's anything drastic, honestly. I really don't. So I am going to go with a Carolina win here. I'm going to go with Carolina 38, South Carolina 35, winning in College Game Day. This would be a huge win for the program and something that can catapult them to a really big season. So I'm absolutely excited. I'll be very nervous for this game when the time comes, but we'll see what happens. I'm extraordinarily excited. I do think Drake Community offense gets enough points, and I think maybe Spencer Rattler slips up somewhere and someone on the defense gets a big interception or something to seal the game at the end.
And I got South Carolina losing to North Carolina 33-30. Now, in my opinion, this could switch very close battle in my mind. This could switch either way. It really just shows how Drake May's going to come out and play. He is playing against a harder defense than Spencer Rattler will be playing against. And I really think Drake May's going to do a great job. It's really just how Spencer Rattler comes out and performs. If he performs like Tennessee or Clemson, honestly, I could really give this win to South Carolina. But it's just there's other games last year where he was just average. And I'm expecting he's probably going to have another one of those games where he's just average like most of the time.
One thing I did forget to mention is the Tez Walker factor. I think if Tez Walker plays in this game, I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like Tez Walker's playing. We really, truly do have the better football team on the field. Mm-hmm. As long as we take care of business, I do think we win this game. I feel a lot better if Tez does play, but even if he doesn't, I still do think we have a little bit of an edge, but not near as much. I wouldn't feel near as comfortable about it, so that is something I forgot to mention. The Tez Walker factor could be huge in this game. Mm-hmm. He's a guy you can just throw the ball deep to twice a game and maybe get 2 touchdowns out of it. It really is that big of a beast.
And how this game is, I feel like there's going to be a lot of plays wide open. 33-30 could be too high or too low. And honestly, if these defenses don't show out like usual with these two type of quarterback, this game could be like a 55-52 insane, like 500-plus yard game from both quarterbacks and like 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see this game being that much more higher scoring than what we had it. I don't really see it being much less scoring either. I think the over-under, I would say there would be at least like 55 points scored in this game and maybe a maximum of like maybe 85 or so. But yeah, I think that'll be a good range for it. But anyways, I'm excited for this game. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
And for Carolina, you won't have to worry about Storm Duck falling over and giving someone a wide open like 80-yard touchdown catch or like 80-yard catch.
Possibly. Unfortunately, that may be true. But anyways, so wrapping this one up, we do have Both of us have NC State predicted to win against UConn on Thursday, and we both have Carolina predicted to win this coming Saturday on College Game Day. So very exciting stuff. Thank you guys for joining us on episode 2 of the TarPack podcast. We look forward to seeing you in episode 3 and in College Game Day. Keep an eye out for us because we're going to be there. Thank you guys for your support. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Let us know in the comments your prediction for this game. And thank you guys for stopping by.
Thank you for watching.